large family, many children. This man says he loves his family, but cannot provide for their needs. Many of his children go hungry every day. He cannot afford to take the sick ones to hospital. He has managed to send some of them to school, but can't feed them while they learn. He cannot provide a roof over their heads. When it rains, some of them get washed away. The older ones who are surviving his neglect are told to not only fend for themselves, but to send him more and more money each year to cater for the family. But while this man asks his impoverished children to tighten their belts and sacrifice for the family, he drives around in expensive cars, treats himself in the best hospitals, takes loving care of his friends, and makes no apology to his children for their back-breaking work that pays for his lavish lifestyle. Now, just as these children are at their hungriest, sickest, and most impoverished, this Father of the Year announces that he is going to donate a massive chunk of the money they have been paying into the family account to a church project. Why? Because some years ago he promised God he would do so. Tell me honestly, what would you think of such a father? President Nana Akufo-Addo is clearly a man of his word. He pledged free SHS to Ghanaians, and he has delivered. Maybe we can talk about the quality of the education the children are being subjected to later. But for today, let's just say he's delivering. Now, while he was going around the country promising us free SHS, he was also telling God that if he won the 2016 elections, he would construct a cathedral to the glory of his name. Indeed, after he won the election, he chose to follow through on his promise. President Nana Akufo-Addo made a donation of 100,000 Ghana cedis from his personal money to the National Cathedral project.
The purpose of the cathedral, as I indicated at the sword cutting, was to offer thanksgiving to the Almighty for his blessings to us as a nation, and to address a missing link in the nation's architecture by building a church for national purposes. The challenge of building Ghana's national cathedral, therefore, relates to the mobilization of our people in support of the project.
Clearly, what the president had in mind was not a 100,000 Ghana cedi cathedral. The fulfilling of his personal pledge to God would cost much more than that. And the president is a man of his word. So, without Ghanaians' permission, he demolished buildings on state grounds, including judges' homes, to make room for his massive personal debt to God to be built. Why should Ghanaians be the ones funding the president to pay a personal debt that he owes to God? But the president didn't stop at the appropriation of state land for his personal project. In Parliament, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta pledged state funding to the cathedral.
Mr. Speaker, this state and church partnership envisaged by the President to develop the National Cathedral is on course. An initiative, the 100 cedis a month club, also dubbed Ketewa Biara Nsa, will be launched by the trustees of the National Cathedral on August 12, 2021, to give as many Ghanaians as possible the opportunity to be part of the history to build the National Cathedral. The aim of the club is to raise 1 million Ghanaians who will give 100 cedis a month for the construction of the National Cathedral.
This week, a leaked document revealed that a donation of 25 million Ghana cedis has been approved as additional seed money. Another leaked document revealed that the architectural firm in charge of the project has already been paid 37 million Ghana cedis for this project. Now, the good book says, "For all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God." We are all sinners, granted. But the same Bible says we should work out our own salvation with fear and trembling. So again, I ask, why are we abandoning our own salvation to work out Nana Akufo-Addo's? Why are we footing the bill for the president's pledge to God? Ghanaians are predominantly devout and generous Christians. Many people have actually given money to this project already, but many more have not. Some Christians have blatantly refused to donate because they object to being roped in to fund the fulfillment of the president's private pledge. They say their refusal is due to Ghana's multitude of unsolved problems. The roads are bad. Many companies have shut down due to the poor economy. People are out of work. Because we don't have enough money to build drains, Accra floods every year and people die. Due to a lack of money, hospital projects have been put on hold. Because there's no money, the state owes very vulnerable people LEAP stipends. These people are going without food daily. School lunch caterers are on strike. They are enraged because the government expects them to feed each child on 97 pesewas per meal. The government's excuse for this ridiculous amount is that there isn't enough money. There isn't enough money to feed our children, but we have sufficient funds to pay the president's personal debts. Please, God, speak to us. Is this really what you want? Do you really want our leaders to starve us, neglect our basic needs, and leave us to our own fate just so that you can have another cathedral? Because this is what your servant, our president, is doing.
Right. So that was Kojo Jansen. And he sort of brings us some summary. You know, I started something about the cathedral, but I stopped. I just stopped. I'm not the only Ghanaian. There are many Ghanaians. And initially, those of us who were crusading that there should be a location that could be proper for it, rather than this very place, were told how we were the devil incarnate, and that we only say we are Christians by our mouth, but we don't believe it. The people who are resigning today from the Board of Trustees, do you remember what some of them tell you? Some of them told you? The president said we're Sambalat and we're Tobiases who didn't want God's work to progress. Remember what Duncan-Williams said? That if you said anything that seemed like you were against it, you're almost like the devil. Now, this is where we are. He didn't exactly say that. So, Archbishop Nicholas Duncan-Williams and the Reverend Joseph Eastwood Anaba, very respected, have tendered their resignation. It was a joint resignation. And they say that they asked for some audit and all sorts of things that have not been done. They want a cathedral to be built on integrity. On that basis, they are staying back and wishing those who are at the helm, wishing them well. Yes, Alex, just very brief comments because
we don't have time.
There's really not much to say about this, right?
No, there isn't. We all know the history of the cathedral. From day one, it was shrouded with a lot of concern, just unanswered questions. Many asked questions, including journalists like yourself and others, and they were vilified, for want of a better phrase, in their concerns. In fact, anyone who asked a legitimate question was almost seen as unchristian. And they were just legitimate questions for a plan. If you're going to plan for something, where's the money coming from? How much of the money do you have? Why does the price of the building keep changing? Simple things, nothing complicated. And now everybody, water has found its level, let me put it that way. Everybody is beginning to understand that being associated with this project is not in anybody's best interest who is involved already. Some saw the writing on the wall very early. Otto Bills just said, I'm not part. His name was put there, but I'm not part of it. So he was never part. But there was an intention to get him there, and he didn't take part. Duncan-Williams, who was part, quickly left. Now we have two others, and these are very senior men of God.
Duncan-Williams is credited as the founder of modern charismatic, movement in Ghana.
Exactly, and he's resigned.
Eastwood Anaba, their influence goes far beyond Ghana.
And he's resigned. So, and even whether for paper exercise or whatever, at some point the Attorney General also removed himself from a particular position. So, I mean, the kind of scandal around the cathedral, an edifice that is supposed to be to the glory of God, is unbelievable. And it stands as a blot, this is my fact, a big blot on the leadership style, the leadership of the Nana Addo and the MPP government, because they all pushed it. And the way and manner in which they went was wrong. We all love our God. We are all Christians. We all go to our churches. Don't vilify people for asking legitimate questions about what you were doing, especially when statements had been made that government funds would not be used, and government funds have been used. So here we all are. I have no problem with the leaders of the churches who have left previously and currently, because I think that at any time you must assess where you are with anything.
Right.
And if it comes to the fore that mistakes have been made and the way this is going and I have to come out of it, then kudos to them for knowing that this is the case.
Right. Richard, just some 3-4 minutes. Government must be clear on who is building the National Cathedral. Dr. Opuni Frimpong, Reverend Dr. Kwambida Opuni Frimpong, a former General Secretary of the Christian Council. Are you surprised people like him are asking such questions? Your own Nana Obri Boaheng, former Deputy General Secretary of the NPP, says that we shouldn't be talking about National Cathedral when we can't have sufficient dialysis machines for our citizens. What do you say about the resignation of these two eminent, bishops?
Well, Samson, thank you very much. I think I can hear my brother's voice, and I say very good morning to him. Samson, I think that just like my senior brother just said, no, I don't think anybody has problem with the resignation of the bishop, Duncan-Williams and Reverend Eastwood Anaba, or any other person who resigned before. It's a voluntary call to serve, and if they find at the point they cannot continue, I think that they have a prerogative that only they can exercise to continue or not to continue. So that there is no quibble about that. But the issues they raised in the resignation, one to do with requests for audit, that strangely is one thing that I don't know how they wouldn't know that there's an audit underway. The cathedral secretariat engaged, and this, my understanding is that members of the board are fully aware. There was a meeting stating that the audit was going to be commissioned, and I have in my possession a letter that was written to the commission by Deloitte, who they had appointed to audit their both, stating the parameter, the scope of the investigation, doing so consistent with the Companies Act, and it has specified in full detail what the audit was going to capture. And I am surprised that in the resignation, they're stating that there is no audit. But this audit, as part of board meeting records, states that the audit was called. And so the audit is underway since March. So I'm surprised. If that's the reason, then something is not adding up. Okay? So, and then also, Shraj, my understanding is that Shraj is investigating the project. You see, what I am concerned is that, this thing is about God. And if you look at the Bible, I won't be your best reference for the Bible, but my understanding is that God's way is not our way. The way he chooses to do his things. And if you look in historical, biblical times, God really uses the people. It could just be that the people we have assembled to lead this project, okay, be board of trustees, whatever, are not the people God wants to build his house. Because it happened with Saul. Okay, he couldn't build it. David came to build the house of God. So for me, when I'm talking about a national cathedral,
so they haven't said, we must note that they haven't said they are against it, but
No,
they say that they want it built
that.
on foundation of integrity and efficiency.
Right. And but that integrity and efficiency is what the audit is going to produce. So if really that's what you want, you would have waited for the audit report to come.
Don't you find it curious that the secretary says that on October 17, the secretary, Dr. Paul Opoku-Mensah, insisted that the clergymen had been aware of a resolution of January 2023, and that there was Deloitte and Touche that had been engaged in March to begin the audit, and they were expected to complete the audit in July 2023, and these board members were unaware, and he said they were updating them as well. Isn't that curious?
Well, I mean, that will be for the board members, because you and I were not there.
Right.
And ideally, when you have a board situation, you know that this information ought to be shared. So if they are saying that it's not shared, why? Then it also even goes to the heart of the matter that are they the right people to do the job? Because it cannot be on a board and the board is advancing a certain